without a real plan. Because usually I write up what I'm going to say, but when I do that, I just read it, and then I don't really feel like, I don't know, like I'll still be saying what I mean from my heart when I wrote it, but it's just not the same as just telling you without reading it. But I do want to start out with this scripture that's just been a recent favorite. And the Lord showed it to me in the middle of reading one morning within the last 6 months. But it says in 1 Peter 2:9, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light." And I can testify to that.
Amen.
I can testify to that because, so my name is Yvonne, and I'm 48 years old, and I struggled in the past with methamphetamine, the party life, clubbing and drinking and living a double life, because I'd still go to church, you know. So I'll just start with way back. I was born into a broken family. My dad was an alcoholic, and he was physically abusive to my mom. And I saw a lot of that, and I knew that I didn't want to have a life like that. And by the time I was 9 years old, my mom had basically had enough. And she was like, you know, if you hit me again, I'm done. I'm out. It'll be the last time you do it. And he did. He knocked her out, and she was out cold in the bathtub. And the last I remember of that is my grandma coming to get us and taking us home to my grandparents' house. We went to my grandparents, which I would say would be a good thing for a lot of kids who are maybe really close to their grandparents. But I knew my grandparents, and I loved them, but it wasn't a good thing to live there either, because there were several people living in the house at the time, and a family member was abusive in a way of child abuse. And I don't mean physical, but I mean sexual abuse. And he tried to get to me, and I know it was God, but my grandma was saved by the bell because she was at the front door before anything could go any further. And I told, the next day I told, and I was like, you know, this is what happened, this is what he did, and what I would have thought would have been family coming to my rescue, like, you know, it wasn't that way. They were calling me a whore. They were calling me names, and I didn't understand. I was 10 years old. I was young, you know, so I didn't understand that. But my mom, when she found out, she moved us out of there, and she was working 2 jobs. And it was my brother and I and her. And so me and my brother kind of had to fend for ourselves a lot, because she had to work a lot to put bread on the table, you know, put food on the table and take care of us. And we didn't want to go to my grandma's, so I learned how to babysit my brother real early in life. So I didn't want to go over there. And anyways, she married my stepdad in '86, and they moved us to California, in Bakersfield. I was 12 years old. It was different, but it was a good different, because my stepdad gave us a better life, and he taught us values and responsibilities, and he was there for us. Fast forward to high school. I met a guy. He was cute. you know, supposed to be perfect. And, oh, I want him, he said, I'm gonna marry him, and, you know, well, we dated 2 years, and then got engaged a year, and then we got married. And when we got married, I thought life was perfect, you know, but it really wasn't. I mean, we were going to church. He was from a tight-knit family. They were a Catholic family, though, and I was brought up. My stepdad was Baptist, so he was taking us to a Baptist church. And I liked that church because they had the youth, and we had lots of fun and stuff. But anyways, so it was different marrying into the Catholic church because that was just, it was way different. But I learned to love it and understand it, and I practiced that faith. And anyway, so I was serving, I was getting involved, and that's what his family did. They were very involved. I felt like we were at church almost every day, kind of like now, but back then. So I was at church all the time, and we did lots of stuff. But he was working, and all the while he was working, I was with his family. And his family, you know, serving at the church, and I thought he was working, but he wasn't working, he was cheating. And I found out he was cheating, and then he didn't want to own up to that, and just got worse. And then towards the end, where I was just like, okay, we gotta do something, because this is just not gonna work. We just made the decision to come back to Texas, and this was in 2006. And so we came back to Texas as a last effort towards our marriage, and then he started cheating again, you know. So I just remember him cheating again, and he came home, and he is the first one who introduced methamphetamine to me. And I don't think I've told a lot of people that, but he was the first one. And you know, I jumped on board because my husband was, you know, he's what he showed me, and I was like, well, maybe I can win him back, keep him close if I do what he does, you know. And I didn't like it at first, but I was like, oh, I'm losing weight. I'm losing some weight here, and, you know, maybe I can keep it off this time. So I got sucked into that, and then I knew that we needed to stop that. I didn't want to be doing that, and I worked. And so one day, he hadn't come home, and I just remember crying out to God, because I was just like, Lord, you know, I've served you, I've been close to you, and I just feel like everything's just falling apart. Everything's going to pieces, and I don't understand what's happening. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I've started the drugs, but, you know, I'll stop. I just need help, you know. And, well, that help didn't come too fast, and I remember him coming home the next morning. It was the first time he had ever stayed out all night. And he came home the next morning, and he said, I'm leaving. And Yvonne, you're 30 years old, but you are good, you are pure, you're so kind and loving, and I know you'll find somebody. And I was just looking at him like, what are you saying to me, you know? And he said, I want a divorce. He just said, I want a divorce. And I was like, why? And he said, well, I've been having an affair the last 6 months, and I got her pregnant, and I want to do right by her. Okay, we are 2 boys into this marriage, and you want to do right by her. I was so taken aback with that, and I didn't understand why my world was falling apart at the time. And so he got all his stuff, the car that I paid for, he packed it all up, and he left with the boys that day. And he left back to California with the girl. And, you know, I heard from him probably a week later And I'm like, are you sure about this? And he's like, Yvonne, I'm not coming back. Texas is not my life anyways. I was born here, this is where I'm going to stay. And you don't want to be here, and I don't want to be there. And, you know, he had every excuse in the book. So I was just, okay. So I don't know about a lot of people, but, you know, sometimes you seek comfort of family. And when I'd come back to Texas, I hadn't seen my sister and a lot of my cousins and everyone in a long time. And well, after he left, I was wanting to hang out with them. And so I started hanging out with them, and the more I hung out with them, the more I was learning to drink and learning to do more of the methamphetamine. It seemed to be what everybody was doing. And, you know, people I didn't even think that would be doing that were doing that. You know, they looked like they had their life together and everything, and they were doing that. And so was I. You know, I fell in, and I'd work all week long, and on Fridays and Saturdays, I was going to look for it. And then I got involved with a guy who was doing that, and so it was there. It was there all the time. And Monday through Thursday, I remained strong because I had to work. So I wouldn't do it through the week. I would do it Fridays and Saturdays. And then on Sundays, I'd go to church, and I would ask for forgiveness. Because I would regret it. I would regret it. I would feel like, God, help me, because I want to stop. I don't want to do this. I don't want to live my life like this. This is not who I am, but I can't stop it by myself. And I tried, and it was just a vicious cycle. And when I'd go to church, it was routine. Everything there was always routine. And I felt like I was asking for help, and I couldn't get it there. It just seemed like all the ladies they were where they needed to be, and I was the only one that was lost. I felt like that. And one day, my ex, the guy who was involved in a lot of drugs and stuff, he started getting worse. One day, I told myself I wasn't going to get emotional tonight. I shouldn't. I tell this over and over, you know. But it's not easy to talk about that. To talk about the stupid choices I made, you know. But we all make them. And it doesn't make us bad people. And God is there. And He showed me He was there. But at the church, I couldn't get any help. And his mom was like, Yvonne, why don't you try coming to pray over here at my church? And I was like, okay, I'll go. And she said, just come with me. And so I walked in the doors, and I remember a lady. She's not there anymore, but she was there for a long time. Apparently, they told me she'd been there for years. But when I first got there, she just had her arms like this, and she was just so kind and loving and warm and welcoming, you know, into the church. And I was like, this is nice, you know. I've been going to my other church forever, and I don't think I know all the people there, you know. But she was really nice. And so I stayed for the prayer, and a lady came, and while I was at the front, it was just kind of dim in there, and everybody was at the front. And a lady just came. I didn't know it was a lady yet until I opened my eyes, because I felt somebody's hand get on my shoulder. And then I just closed my eyes again, and she was praying for me. And as she was praying, she started praying in the spirit, in tongues. And I didn't understand what she was saying, of course. And I wasn't used to that either. Coming from a Catholic church, you know, they don't do a lot of that. And so I was just listening to her, but as I was praying, I just felt like peace run over me. And then I just started thinking of all the things that I had been doing and all the hurt and pain I'd been carrying. And then something just happened that day when she was praying over me. And had a breakthrough that day, just that one Monday. And mind you, I'm having to sum this all up because we don't want to be here till midnight, but I had been in and out of this season for 10 years, okay? So my ex left us in 2004. I met this guy in 2005. All the way to 2014 was the day, or the year, that I went into this church. And they prayed the prayer over me, and then I was just like, I want to go back. You know, but I didn't want to leave the church. I didn't want to leave my other church yet, and I didn't think that I would actually make that choice to leave there. But then the lady was like, why don't you come to a Wednesday night service? And I was like, oh, Wednesday? Okay. I was like, well, it's summertime. I'm not doing the Wednesday school at the Catholic church right now, because I was over there and I knew I was having this rocky thing happening in my life. And, you know, the nun there's a real nun over there. And she was like, I want you to teach the 6th graders. And I was like, sister, I cannot teach. I'm in a hard place right now, and I'm no person to be teaching anyone right now. I need a lesson to learn. I've got to stop. And she said, the Holy Spirit will guide you. And she handed me that, you know, and I was just like, I was feeling like, you know, somebody would call me a hypocrite. I'm living this life, and I'm here on a Wednesday teaching someone's child about Jesus. Wait a minute, you know. So I was just feeling so wrong. And of course, there's the devil too, putting a lot of thoughts in my head. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're into drugs, and you're over here at the church. You know, what are you doing? You know, lots of lies. The devil gave me lots of lies. And so, anyways, I went to a Wednesday night church. I loved that, and so there I was, going Sundays and Wednesdays, and then I started going Tuesdays to celebrate recovery at the time. And so I was going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the day that I went on a Sunday, I never turned back to my other church. And my other church, you know, they were not happy. You know, they were happy but not happy, because they wanted me there. But I was just, I don't know, and I was so confused. And I called my ex. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Am I doing something wrong? We don't get communion every Sunday. Is that wrong, you know? And she's like, Yvonne, if you're filled up, if you are feeling like you're really getting what you need there, stay put. Don't go anywhere. Just stay there. And so I stayed. I continued to celebrate recovery, but I was still having trouble with methamphetamine. But I knew that I had to make a choice, and I had to let go of the guy, because as much as I was trying to stop, he would keep bringing it. And so I had to stop it, and I made the choice to stop, and I went to the altar, and I surrendered everything. And there was one day where I was going to start it again, and I remember going to the bathroom, and when I was in there, I just felt like I was in a very dark place. And when I was in there, I just heard something in my ears just say, Yvonne, what are you doing? What are you about to do? You've got to put this down. If you're not going to put this down, you know, it's just not, you can't do that. You got to make a choice today. You can't serve the world, and you can't serve me at the same time. And so I remember putting the paraphernalia in a bag and taking it out and breaking it and throwing it away, and totally being delivered from that.
Amen.
Since then.
All
And
right.
so it's been July of 2014 to today, I'm completely free of drugs, and I've handed over everything to them. So I don't even go to clubs anymore. I don't do any of that. My thinking now is I want to give back, and I want to help other people who feel like they're in that middle, you know, or even the ones that are totally just, they're not ready to change yet, but I just want to love them anyways, because I've been there. I've been in that position. And I know that we say it's wrong, it is wrong, but I know that God puts us through that season for a reason. I believe in when they say, when you're being refined, you're going through that fire, but while you're going through the fire, you're being refined. And the Lord is shaping you and molding you and building you for His purpose. So, and He wants you to have a story to tell. So no matter what you're going through, to me, from my heart, I'm just letting you know that God is real. He is real because He saved me and He brought me out of that darkness. One that I thought that I couldn't get out of by myself. I knew I couldn't do it by myself. I tried it on my own, but I couldn't. But then I was making all these other choices on my own, and oh gosh, when you try to dictate your own life, it doesn't work. You need God with you. I know I needed Him with me. But that's my story. My story is that I've been lost, and even to this day, I'm not perfect. I might not be into all that stuff anymore, but I always hear from someone I am perfect at being imperfect or something like that. So we're all work in progress. I think we will not ever be totally 100% until the Lord calls us that day. But He's full of love, and He has that to give us and shower over us, and just don't give up. I thought I was at my wit's end. It took 10 years, but as far as being involved in that kind of life, but I learned from it, and I think everybody who was there for me, there are still a few that I serve alongside right now today, and I'm grateful for that. And I'll stop before I talk its ear off, because I didn't write this so I can just keep talking. But thank y'all for letting me tell my story. Thank you.